into the final 9 days of the transfer window, and Mikel Arteta has made his intentions clear. Arsenal are still active. So with David Ornstein confirming that a new wide forward is the priority, what do we have today on a potential £50 million transfer for Pedro Neto? Also, will Arsenal make a reported second offer for Youri Tielemans? Could AC Milan's Sandro Tonali be a last minute target? And which Arsenal loanee is setting records in France? Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Babs14. Welcome back to your boys channel, and I hope you are doing amazing as always. Don't forget to smash a like on the video if you enjoy the content, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And if you want to vote for your boy for the Football Content Awards, the pinned comments is the place to go. But let's start off by talking about Arsenal's top targets. Arsenal's top priority in this window is to sign a wide forward, and a very important factor behind that is that Arsenal have an imminent departure, as Nicola Pepe, who was not involved for the squad against Bournemouth. According to Fabrizio Romano, talks are progressing well between Arsenal and Nice for the player. Positive conversations also today over a loan deal until 2023, and even according to the reliable Nice Matin, Pepe is expected at the club this week and in time to face Marseille. The final step of this transfer is the negotiations of the wages. How much are Arsenal going to pay? How much are Nice going to pay? Reports have also claimed that there should be an option to buy of around £15 million. It isn't the most amount of money, but the most important part here is that Arsenal are getting rid of a player they don't see a part of the long-term future. And as Fabrizio Romano says, Arsenal are going to sign other players. I think Mikel Arteta was pretty clear many times by saying that he's waiting for new signings, they are still short, and that a new winger has always been a priority. Fabrizio Romano, alongside many other journalists, have always pointed towards the fact that Arsenal have this so-called mystery wide target, and we have discussed many names, the likes of Yeremy Pino, Cody Gakpo, and even Leroy Sané. Arsenal fans have turned into detectives trying to figure out who is this mystery wide target. Today that search comes to an end, as David Ornstein has confirmed Arsenal's wide target transfer priority is Pedro Neto. Discussions have been going on for over a month. Arsenal to George Mendes and Mendes to Wolves. Even though Wolves don't plan to sell the 22-year-old winger just yet, Arsenal also can't spend excessively, so a deal is not easy, but the interest is concrete and unanimous. Pedro Neto is the mystery wide target that Edu Gaspar has been negotiating behind the scenes, and the key man behind this transfer isn't Arsenal, isn't Wolves, it is George Mendes. Because as Daniel Cutt says, Arsenal want to pay £35 million, but Wolves want closer to 50. Even though there has been no official bid yet, Mikel Arteta is a huge fan of the winger, and even according to Fabrizio Romano, the stance of Wolves is they hope to keep the player, and they are asking for some important money. I think they want more than £50 million. But why exactly George Mendes is going to be so important is there's a clear gap in valuation, and that Arsenal also have to be wary of financial fair play. Over the last 2 seasons, Arsenal have had a net spend of £218 million, ranking them the highest out of any of the big 6 clubs. To spend that sort of money, to not be in the Champions League, and to not make any massive player sales, Arsenal have to be very careful of not breaking the FFP rules. The reason why Arsenal are trying to negotiate this transfer via George Mendes, not only does Edu Gaspar have a very close relationship with the agents, but more importantly, Mendes is a guy that can make transfers happen. With the close ties that Mendes has with the ownership at Wolves, he could be very important in terms of finding a compromise, a mid-ground, and maybe a fee of £45 million or a structure that suits both Arsenal and Wolves can be found. In terms of the player himself, there would be so many Arsenal fans excited, and there's a reason behind that. Looking into his profile, as you can see, he excels in terms of progressive passes received, progressive carries and dribbles completed, but also in terms of key passes, ranking in the 82th percentile. And I think under Mikel Arteta, who is known to be a manager that is very good at developing wide forwards, look at what he's done with the likes of Raheem Sterling, Sané, and at Arsenal, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. Pedro Neto has all the fundamentals to be coached into one of the top wingers in world football under Arteta. But I also kind of think he is a very similar profile to Gabriel Martinelli, and just like Martinelli, he thrives a lot more on the left hand side, and it's more on the right hand side behind Bukayo Saka where Arsenal need options. Do you believe he is the perfect profile for Arsenal to be signing? And in terms of Neto and Arsenal, going back to January 2020, he says that when I was a kid, my favourite team in England was Arsenal. With Arsene Wenger, beside winning trophies, I thought they played some really good football. So Pedro Neto is a boyhead fan of our gargantuan institution. It is things I love to hear, and that could help when it comes to agreeing stuff like personal terms. This is all a case of Arsenal and Wolves hashing out a deal in the final 9 days of the window, and if they can fingers crossed agree a fee, then Pedro Neto could become a brand new Arsenal player. But on the other side, Arsenal also have plenty of alternatives. In fact, according to Sacha Yeremy Pino, Mykhailo Mudryk and Cody Gakpo are the alternatives. Yeremy Pino is a player that we have talked about quite a lot on this channel. He fits the profile of what Arsenal wants, but in terms of those reports, they have gone very quiet over the past few days. In terms of Cody Gakpo, it looks like he is advancing negotiations to potentially sign for Manchester United. But who exactly is Mykhailo Mudryk? According to MediaFoot, Arsenal are one of the teams that are more and more active in this file of the Shakhtar Donetsk winger Mykhailo Mudryk. Mudryk has a big contract at Shakhtar and it runs until June 2026. So if he is to join his Ukraine compatriot and Alexander Zinchenko at Arsenal, it will not be for less than 20 million euros. Mudryk is described as a pacey wide forward that plays on the left hand side, is right footed, and when I say pacey I mean electrifying. He's a very tricky player, very nimble and very good in terms of dribbling. It looks like he's got very good technique when it comes to passing and ball striking, but apart from that I can't give you guys any further analysis because I have not watched the player play. He has also attracted interest from the likes of Roma and other top European clubs, but spending £20 million on a player currently playing in Ukraine, despite of the obvious potential, it is a massive risk. I think the likes of Cody Gakpo, Yeremy Pino and more importantly Pedro Neto are far higher in terms of priorities. Moving on, let's talk Youri Tielemans. According to Fabrizio Romano, he says that I expect Tielemans is one to watch until the end of the market. Leicester know that proposals could come and the Arsenal have been interested since May. One to watch is one thing, but in terms of Leicester themselves, he was left out of their starting lineup in the last game against Southampton, with Brendan Rodgers saying that Tielemans was not in the right mindset. I think if Leicester are going to do a deal, they want to do it as soon as possible, not just because of the players' uncertainty, but more importantly to give them time to sign a replacement. But on top of that, with the uncertainty over their manager, a lot of reports have claimed that Brendan Rodgers is about to get sacked, and if that was the case, they would have to pay out his contract, which would cost upwards of £20 million. And maybe Leicester will look to the departure of Tielemans as a way to finance that. But in terms of Arsenal themselves and them making a move, according to Sacha Arsenal are ready to make a bid for Youri Tielemans next week. Mikel Arteta has approved the signing of the Leicester midfielder, and next week will be decisive. Sandro Tonali and Moses Caicedo are two of the other names on the club's list. It's very important to point out that Sacha is one of the most reliable journalists when it comes to Belgian transfers. It's pretty obvious to say this next week is going to be decisive because it's the final week of the window, and as we get closer and closer to transfer deadline day, with Leicester's hands being forced and all the uncertainty around the club, all the power falls into the hands of Arsenal Football Club, which might mean they can secure him on an even cheaper transfer. But as Sacha also reports, Sandro Tonali of AC Milan could also be a target. 22 years of age, a full Italian international, he played a massive part for Milan last season as they won their first Scudetto for a very long time. He plays more as a number 6 and is far more defensive than Youri Tielemans. And with the amount of attacking number 8s that Arsenal already have at the club and the improvements of Xhaka as a number 8, there's been quite a few Arsenal fans that have said maybe it's better for Arsenal to spend their money on a number 6 than signing a player like Youri Tielemans. But in terms of actually signing the player, I think look, it could be a tremendous signing that makes a lot of sense in terms of the profile. But considering how long of a contract he still has remaining and how important of a player he is for AC Milan, to convince him to come out of Italy where he's thriving week in week out, at this late stage of the window, I just think it's very unlikely. According to Gerard Romero, there is a growing feeling that Hector Bellerin will join Barcelona in the coming days. That would be a massive surprise. One, because Barca can't physically register players as it stands, But secondly, and more importantly, wasn't he meant to go to Real Betis? I think in terms of Arsenal, and the reason why this transfer has longed out is because they are seeing that Barca want to sign him, Udinese want to sign him, Betis want to sign him, and I think they're just playing the waiting game here to see if any of these clubs are going to make any sort of transfer offer and if Arsenal can make some sort of money. And if they can get that, then fantastic, but if they can't get it, they can always just terminate the player's contract and let him go on a free transfer. Let's move on to the other Arsenal news today. And starting off with an Arsenal loanee thriving in Liga and scoring goals for fun. Following Balogun has scored in his third consecutive game for Reims, and in the process he becomes the first Reims player to score in each of his first 3 appearances since Jacques Vaness in August 1975. In terms of the performance itself, it was pretty fantastic, not only scoring a goal but having 2 shots on target, 90% passing accuracy, and also making 2 big chances. I watched a bit of the highlights and it's very clear to see that Balogun is so confident, from the dribbling to the passing to the shooting and even him doing Rabonnas. And for Arsenal, that means we have a player returning with even more confidence and experience and ready maybe to make an attempt in the first team. And talking about loanees, Arsenal have also confirmed a loan transfer for the season for Brooke Norton-Cuffy to Rotherham. This one here is a surprise, and that's because I expected for Norton-Cuffy to stay at Arsenal and compete in the first team, if not in the Premier League but in stuff like the Europa League. But instead it looks like Arteta believes the best thing for Norton-Cuffy's development is for him to go down to the Championship and start games on a more consistent basis. It is that time of the day. Arsenal are now the only team to maintain a 100% win record in the Premier League following their first 3 rounds of fixtures this season. Man City drew at the weekend, and as it stands, Arsenal are 2 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Long may it continue, but in terms of Arsenal fans now, there are quite a few shameless ones, including your boy, and they are starting to ask questions of maybe this year, is it past the Champions League, and do Arsenal have serious ambitions of challenging beyond that? Well, according to Liverpool forward Mo Salah, when asked on who he thinks can challenge for the Premier League alongside Liverpool this season, he says City, Chelsea and Arsenal. I think these 3 will be the competition. So it's not just shameless Arsenal fans but even players of a world-class standard that believe that Arsenal are going to be up there. And since Salah gave his interview, Liverpool lost against Manchester United, opening up a 7-point gap to a team that is said to be fighting for a title. I myself want to stay humble. I think it's just a little bit premature, and once Arsenal play against better teams and are able to pass harder tests, then maybe, just maybe. But until then, I think let's just move in silence, stay very humble and just take it game by game. And where it gets us after 38 games, we're only going to have to wait and see. But that is the video there and there, so hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, smash a like and also subscribe if you are new. If you would like to follow your boy on all of his social medias, then the links are down below in the description. But that was today's episode of the Transfers FC, and Pedro Neto has emerged like an RKO out of nowhere, and with 9 days left, are Arsenal going to make the move? They're going to have to wait and see. But until then, take care of yourselves and in a bit.